Yes. You have tuned in to Renewed Mind Revolution podcast with your host, Michelle Cook Hall. Today's podcast is brought to you by Faith versus Fear, Breaking Family Ties, which can be found and available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. This podcast is designed with you in mind to remind you that you can always click that reset button and start all over again. It's never too late to be great. So now I want you to sit back. I want you to relax. I want you to clear your mind. Take in that deep breath. Prepare yourself for change as we listen in on Renewed Mind Revolution podcast with your host, Michelle Cook Hall. Let's go. Welcome to Renew My Revolution podcast with your host, Michelle Cook Hall. As always, it is my honor and my pleasure to be able to share some tips and some tools with you that I know will assist you in becoming a better you. I promise you, it is always my pleasure. It's always my pleasure. I'm always excited about it. I don't consider this a chore or a job. I consider it my honor to be able to share. And that's exactly what I feel like I'm doing, is just sharing and helping the way that I can. And so I just want to welcome you. If this is your first time, my name is Michelle Cook Hall, and you're listening to Renew My Revolution podcast, where we teach tips and tools to assist you in becoming a better you. Now, every tip, every tool is based upon experience or experience and research. And the thing is, it might not work for you, but sometimes from my experience, it is good to hear someone say, hey, I tried this and it worked for me, and sometimes we can kind of apply it to our own, or we can tweak it a little bit and, work out some of the kinks so that it can work for us. So this is just what it is. It's not like some strict, floor plan to tell you this is the only way for you to deal with anything. Absolutely not. But it is just my experience. It's just some of the research that I have done to help and assist you. Hit the word assist. Assist you. Now, today is a special day, as always, I say, right? And today is special because I just want to share with you a message of giving yourself a break. Giving yourself a break. And this is what I mean. Sometimes, I know for sure, with my personality, I can be extremely tough on myself. I can be extremely hard on myself. I probably can rip myself apart more than anybody ever can. Somebody else can say something to me. It really does not impact me as much as I can do for me. Okay, this is just me. You might be different, but I can rip myself apart. It just, you could have did that different. You could have did this. You should be, doing this by now. You should be better. You should be blah blah. I could do that to me. And, you messed that up, but I can do that to me way better than anybody else can do that to me. So if you're like me and you have found yourself not giving yourself credit, right? Because a lot of times with me, I'm going to try to take my time with this. A lot of times with me, you guys know I love to give a personal touch to this because I feel like it will help somebody. A lot of times with me, I was kind of brought up and taught and trained that you got to be very careful with, how you approach things, how you handle things, how you deal with things, because you don't want to come across as being arrogant or vain. Vanity is just a no-no. You just don't be arrogant. Don't be vain. So sometimes I think the lines of that get crossed. Okay, hear me clearly. I think the lines of that get crossed because I had found myself struggling with trying to uh, celebrate myself when I needed to, give myself kudos, enjoy moments of a heightened level. I found myself struggling with that, because I felt that it was vanity. I felt that it was pride. Okay, and so what I didn't find hard to do, was to pick apart things that I did. You know, I did not find it a struggle or sin to, tell myself, oh my God, you shouldn't have done that. You could have done better. You shouldn't have said that. You could have did better on that. I can go on and on. But I did not find that to be a struggle or a sin. But whenever I felt like celebrating myself or saying this might have been a small moment, but good job, that's okay, you did great on that. Or it was a huge moment, good job on that. I found that was a struggle. That is something that I found very difficult to do. So once again, if you have found yourself in this before, where you don't give yourself kudos, you don't give yourself celebrations when you need it and when it is deserved, because you might feel conflicted, or maybe you just don't do it at all. Maybe it has nothing to do with feeling conflicted, you just don't do it. Then this is the podcast for you. This is the podcast for you. Because what we're going to do is we're going to pull back these layers, and we're going to get to the root, because that's what we do here. We pull back the layers and we get to the root. So for me, I told you, I know, based upon pulling back the layers and getting to the root, I know that my struggle with celebrations, and I had no problem celebrating other people. I had no problem giving them their flowers and telling them you're awesome, you're great, you're beautiful. That was outstanding. That was phenomenal work that you did. I had no problem saying, oh my God, I cannot believe they did that. That's so awesome. That is so great. That is so beautiful. That is so, special or educated, or just kudos and gratitude and celebration, right? I had no problem doing that for other people. It came naturally for me. But for myself, it was a struggle, right? And so after me looking at that and realizing, because there was a moment in my life that, I am the person who, often host events and throw events for individual people and celebrate them and do all these things. I've done it for years and years and years. So when I had to buckle down and do something for myself as far as a celebration, I felt weird. I was so used to being in the background, just doing all of the work and pushing somebody else up there in the forefront, that when it came my time to do something for myself, and celebrate a great milestone for myself, even after doing all the work and putting forth the effort to come to that day, my feelings was so strange, because I really felt like, wow, this is weird. Me doing this for me. And that's when I began to look at why. Why was that foreign to me? Why is it not foreign for me to celebrate other people, give them gratitude and kudos to them, but not to myself? So that's when I started to go back and pull back these layers. And then that's when I realized that it had a lot to do with my teaching and my upbringing, right? Of the wires getting crossed, of me probably taking it too far, and believing that if I did these things for myself, there was vanity involved, right? there was arrogance involved. And it wasn't for me. It was not for me. But it caused me to miss moments. It caused me to be harder on myself than what I need to be. It caused me to not value myself in certain areas that I should have been valuing myself. So a lot of skills that I could have been able to profit from, which naturally so. If you pay money to get your education and everything, you want to make money from that. So there were skill sets that definitely I could have profited from, right? But I never saw the value. Okay, I never saw the value because I thought to see and acknowledge and celebrate it was me being arrogant or me being vain. So let's get to you. Let's get to your scenario. Put yourself in this situation where you know that you might have, and we could take this into so many different areas of our life. Say you've had an addiction for years, right? And say that you've been clean, no cheating, right? You've been clean for 2 months, right? And you want to celebrate that, but there's a part of you saying, I shouldn't have had addiction in the first place. What is there to celebrate? Come on, right? How about someone who may suffer from, depression, find it very difficult to get out of bed, and find it very difficult to function and be a part of society, right? And then you have a moment where you've done something that your depression would have never allowed you to do before, but you've done it. Instead of you celebrating that moment and getting excited about that moment, you're saying, big deal. I feel worse about the fact that I have had this depression and have to even think about celebrating this moment versus me celebrating this moment. I hope I'm making this kind of clear. You just see where I'm going with this. How we take something that could be celebratory and exciting and fun and whatever for us in a kudos moment, in a good job moment, and we find a way to pick it apart and manipulate it for all types of reasons. Now, I told you what my layers were, what my issues were. But you have to see, why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you not celebrating your 2 months of sobriety? Why are you not celebrating the moment that you've done something that your depression kept you from? Let's look at anxiety, right? Say that, every time you go out in public amongst a lot of people, you have a panic attack. I mean, that's just what you've been doing for years. And then you've been working on that, and you've been trying to put yourself in these environments, right? You've been trying to test it and get through it by putting yourself in there, right? And so you found yourself in there, and you had mild moments, right? But you did not have a panic attack. It did not come full-fledged, and you got through it, right? And you were successful. Instead of you celebrating and say, oh my God, I have not been able to be in, an environment with so many people in such a long time without me wanting to run and hide, kudos, good job. Let's continue. Let's keep this going. Let me just keep trying. Let me just keep getting out there until, this become the norm for me, right? But instead of you doing that, you say, it sucks because, 7 years ago, this wasn't even a concern. This wasn't even a factor. This wasn't a problem. And the fact that I have to even coach myself to be amongst a bunch of people now, I have to even keep talking to myself and dealing with this right now. It's just too much. You take away your celebration. You take away your kudos, your moment, right? Why? Why are you doing that? Why are you not celebrating? Why are you not saying, good job? Why? And I am convinced this. I am convinced that it is so much more easier, right, to think negative. It is so much more easier to accept the worst. It is so much easier to think the worst. Those thoughts come so easy. They come frequently and they come easy. But it's work. This is my experience. This is my perception. This is my belief. It takes work, right? And I think that's why in the scriptures it talks about guarding your your heart, and guarding, being mindful of the thoughts that we have, because it is such a job to do. It is such a job to do. It takes nothing for us to go left and start thinking of everything that could go wrong, thinking of everything that could happen. Have you? This is really quick. Let me throw this in here. For example, have you ever, been driving and you had a near miss experience, which means there was almost an accident, right? But it didn't happen, right? Think about how many times, or the fact that although it did not happen, you made it. There was no accident. It was just like blowing up the horn, pressing down the horn and moving on. But think about the fact that even after that moment, you felt some type of way about that experience as if it happened. And not only that, if you were in the car with somebody else, you start talking about it. Did you see that? Did you see what almost happened? Did you see how they almost ran into me? And then you're mad about it, right? As if it happened. And not only that, but it plays over in your mind what could have happened, right? It plays over in your mind the scenario of what could have happened if you all had actually made impact. This is what I'm talking about. That is that power of thinking, how powerful our thinking is, and the fact that it seems to be so much easier to think like that. That what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that, what if this, instead of saying the total opposite. We've already did a podcast on how powerful our thinking is, and if we were just to switch it over to thinking more positive, how much more, impactful our lives would be, and more fruitful our lives would be, and how we can get things done and accomplish and overcome so much more if we were to think, the total opposite of what we do. And I've done a podcast on that before, because I realized that, our thinking creates an environment, right? I'm going to get back to what we're talking about, but this is important. It ties in because it's all about our perception, and it's all about our thinking, and why we're not celebrating our moments, and why we're not giving ourselves kudos when we are supposed to be giving ourselves kudos, okay? But I realized that our minds create an environment for us, whether it's good or bad, right? It's going to create this environment for us, this whole scenario, this whole thing for us. And not only that, but it can manifest. Hear me clearly. Your thinking process could actually manifest things in your life. So this is what I'm saying. If you are constantly thinking, I don't feel good. Just say you actually were fine, but I don't feel good. I'm sick. You can actually start feeling sick, If someone, tells you, oh my God, you look weak today. Oh my God, your eyes are glossy. Oh my God, you look like you're sick. If you allow that to play in your mind and your thinking and get into what we call our spirit, right? You just keep playing that over and over again, you will begin to feel what somebody else just told you. Because that's how powerful your mind is. Do you hear what I'm saying? So think about, what if we did the total opposite, right? And that's what Renewed Mind Revolution podcast is all about. It's about us realizing that we have not only spiritually, but physically, the capabilities of undoing a lot of damage that we've done to ourselves and that was done to us. Okay? So that's why I brought that part into this podcast, because it ties into what we do here and why this is so important. Because a lot of us has so much baggage and so much residue and so much trauma from our childhood and some from even being adults, and it has to be undone. Can it be undone? Absolutely. Can your thinking be undone? Absolutely. Can you heal from your hurt, your pain, and your trauma? Yes, you can. Absolutely. We can do this. It is absolutely possible. Just as that was able to be done, it takes work to be undone. And that's the fact. We have been in situations, circumstances that has been done over a period of time. So it was just working and working and working and working in you and working in me. And it takes effort, intentional effort to undo the damage that's been done. But the thing is, you have to realize that you are worth this work. It literally breaks my heart to see people who want to just give up. And I get it. I get that life can be very difficult, very challenging. It could come at so much at one time. It can, just spin you around and then, spin you around the other way. It can just do so much. I get it. But it breaks my heart for people to decide that they do not want to be a part of their own healing, that they would rather just give up and just let it go and just let it happen to them. Let life beat on them and let life, hurt them and let life just determine, that they're done and they just want to check out. That hurts me. Because I know that you have a will in you to fight. You have a will in you to fight. We are designed to survive. We are designed to push. We are designed to persevere. We are designed to recover. We are designed to restore, to be restored. So it breaks my heart for an individual to get to the point where they're just so broken. And I think the worst part about that is that during that time, they always feel as if this is it. I'm going to do a topic on that one day. This is it. Because I have said that even through this podcast so many times, how many moments I've had of that. This is it. This is it. This is the moment where it all going to fall apart. This is the moment that, breaks me. This is the moment that I no longer can take anymore. So every moment in my life that was horrific or hard or traumatizing, that was a this is moment for me. And I get it that you at that this is it. I can't take no more, But I learned from experience, hence why I'm here to share, that it's not it. You are still stronger than you ever would know. You have survived so much for a reason. You have it in you to face not only the next day, but the day after that, day after that, day after that. You can do this, and it will turn around. And it will change. But you just have to get through this season. You got to get through this moment. You got to get through this time. And that sometimes is exhausting. Just to think about it. It can become exhausting. But you deserve to be better. You deserve to, be strong and be healed. So how does this tie into what we initially started our topic about? Well, understanding, that the way you look at things changes the outcome of things. So learning to celebrate yourself is not a form of vanity. Learning to say that was good, that was a good job, kudos to you, is not necessarily a form of vanity. It's just, learning to celebrate these moments in your life that mean something to you. Whether it's something big like a wedding or a graduation or a new job or a new promotion, these things, these major accomplishments in life, or if it's being clean for 2 months, or getting up out the bed and facing, your biggest fears, or being in a moment that normally would trigger your anxiety, but yet you didn't fall, you didn't run, you didn't hide, you stand your ground. These moments deserve to be celebrated. And it's okay to do that. It's okay for you to say, I did that. And that means I can do it again. That's what's important. When you're able to celebrate these moments, then you're able to say, I can do this again. If I made it for 2 months, I can make it for 6 months. I can make it to a year. If I can go out and face my fear and get out this bed and face this fear, then I can face other fears. If I can go into an environment that normally trigger me, then I can stay longer in this environment that normally would trigger me. Just being in that moment and rejoicing in that moment and celebrating, because you deserve to be celebrated. And that's what this podcast was all about. Showing you the tricks of the enemy that tries to snatch away your joy, your peace, and your happiness for these, from these moments, these great moments for yourself. Telling you that, this is not a reason to celebrate. This is not a reason to be excited. This is not a reason to be happy. To keep you in this funk, to keep you sad, to keep you, depressed, to keep you, feeling like you're not good enough or not worthy, And so, and tricking you into believing that it's humility when it's not humility. It's depression. It's sad. So this was just to remind you how awesome you are and how loved you are, how great you are, and how appreciated you are. And that you can overcome any obstacle that the Lord allows to come into your life. So anything that, comes your way, anything that comes my way, I'm reminded that if He allowed it to happen, then that means He equipped me to handle it. And so I share that with you again today. If you haven't heard it before, hear that from me today. If He allowed, if God has allowed this thing to come into your life or to cross your path, okay, or to happen around you or in you or through you, He has equipped you to handle it. Stand on that. Stand on that. No matter what's going on, no matter what you feel, stand on that ground that He has equipped me to handle this thing. It will not handle me. It will not take me out. This is not it. This is not it. This is not the finale. I will overcome because I've done it before, and not only that, He's equipped me to do it. Thank you guys. This has been outstanding. I'm going to teach a podcast on this. Is it? I need to write that down because that is going to be awesome and funny at the same time, because that has definitely been something that I've used quite often alone, okay? I don't go around sharing that with everybody, but I've definitely said it several times. This is it. This can't take no more. So that's going to be a whole nother podcast. And this has been so awesome. I hope you got something from it. If you have, please remember to share it with somebody else who is needing this. And somebody to hear this. Somebody that you know needs to hear this. So remember to share it. Remember to continue to listen to it. Continue to listen to it until it soaks in, it seeps in, it takes, root into you and begin to grow, and then you begin to flourish. God bless you guys. I love you so much, but most importantly, God loves you more. God bless. Have an outstanding day.